Now, it's been widely reported that Tottenham Hotspur Football Club signed a contract with Igor Tudor, the Croatian boss, on Friday night to become Tottenham's new interim boss until the end of the season. He will take charge of 12 Premier League games and a minimum of 2 Champions League games. And the Telegraph just stated that Tottenham have left the door open for Mauricio Pochettino to return to the club in the summer. Hi everyone, hope you're well. Chris Cowlin here. This is another edition of Tottenham News where I'll be going through all of the latest Spurs news, rumours and reports. If you're watching on YouTube, please do hit that subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. Now let's get straight into it. Thomas Frank was of course sacked on Wednesday, and on Friday this all happened very, very quickly. The news was broke by Italian journalist and transfer expert Fabrizio Romano that Igor Tudor has signed his 5-month contract on Friday evening as Tottenham Hotspur interim manager. No option to extend and no option to stay at the club. Igor Tudor understands that unless something completely crazy happens, he will not be given the Spurs job on a permanent basis post-summer 2026. The Daily Telegraph on this story, they have just stated that Tottenham have left open the door for Mauricio Pochettino to return to the club in the summer. Fabrizio Romano has stated that on Tottenham's list for the summer for the permanent post is Roberto De Zerbi and Mauricio Pochettino. Fabrizio Romano's also stated on Saturday morning there has not been any talks between Tottenham and former Chelsea boss Enzo Maresca so far, despite recent links. Maresca remains the clear leading candidate to become the next manager of Manchester City post Pep Guardiola. Now, in March 2023, Igor Tudor took over at Lazio and he had an excellent record taking over late on in the season. He managed them for 9 games, won 5, drew 3 and lost 1. In March 2024, he did a similar thing at Juventus, managed them for the remaining 9 games, and he had exactly the same record. Played 9, won 5, drew 3 and lost 1. Now, Igor Tudor, in his last 5 appointments, his worst win rate record was 38.89%, and his best win record was actually at Marseille, and that was 56.25%. Now, Team Talk have just stated that Spurs, as well as other Premier League rivals, Aston Villa, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, Manchester City, Manchester United, are all chasing 19-year-old Bournemouth star Kroupi. Now, on LinkedIn, Tottenham Hotspur are currently advertising for a new medical coordinator. And David Ornstein from The Athletic has just reported that Tottenham Hotspur rebuffed inquiries from Premier League rivals for Lucas Bergvall in the January transfer window. He goes on to state that Chelsea and Aston Villa made contact to Tottenham to check situation while looking to strengthen their midfield. And a mid-20-year-old's reduced role. But Tottenham have made it clear no plans to consider an exit for him. Now, the Guardian newspaper have just stated that Tottenham actually made checks on Edin Terzić and Marco Rose as possible interim manager options before settling and deciding on Igor Tudor. It is understood that Terzić is keen on joining his next club in a permanent role. Now, the Times newspaper on the managerial situation in the summer, they have stated that candidates for the Spurs job in the summer of 26 will include Andoni Iraola, Roberto De Zerbi and former Spurs boss Mauricio Pochettino. They have stated that Pochettino is keen to return to the Premier League. Andoni Iraola would be interested in the Spurs job, and De Zerbi is also keen on a return to the Premier League, although he would like to assess all of his options. Now, Jay Harris from The Athletic, he has just reported that Thomas Frank received a phone call on Wednesday morning and he knew he was about to be sacked by Spurs. There is now uncertainty about what happens next with backroom staff following Igor Tudor's appointment. Now, an interesting fact has just been published by Sky Sports. Igor Tudor, defensive formations used across managerial career in the top 5 European leagues. Now, he has used a back 3 on 120 occasions and a back 4 on just 4 occasions. Sky Sports have stated that Igor Tudor has agreed to become Tottenham's interim head coach until the end of the season. That has been confirmed by them. They have also stated that Tudor will now fly back to Croatia before taking training at the start of the week. A number of the players and staff are enjoying a couple of days off following that defeat against Newcastle on Tuesday evening. These days off were actually arranged by Thomas Frank, and the plans were kept even though Frank was sacked the day later. Sky Sports have also stated that Spurs will look to name a permanent successor to Thomas Frank in the summer. Now, Tottenham Hotspur legend Teddy Sheringham was far from impressed with the appointment of Igor Tudor to Tottenham on an interim basis until the end of the season. This is what he had to say.
Igor Tudor as the new Tottenham interim manager. What the I can't believe it. I really cannot believe this appointment. Has he got any experience with the Premier League? Yes. Proven manager with different clubs. Marseille, Juventus. Yes, I hear it. What do they want to win the Champions League? Is that what they're bringing him in for? I cannot believe this. They're in a relegation battle in the Premier League. Does he know anything about who they've got to play in the next few games? Does he know anything about Brentford? Does he know anything about Aston Villa? Does he know anything? Yes, he's going to understand football, but does he know anything about the Premier League? This game is going to hit him fast. Arsenal probably are licking their lips knowing this and got them in 10 days' time. I'm flabbergasted that they've gone for a name that does not and will not have an idea of what's going to hit him in the Premier League in the next 6 weeks. It'd be miraculous if they get anything out of the game against Arsenal. That puts them under even more pressure. I think off the top of my head, they've got Chelsea just after that as well, which they will love it even more to rub it in our faces to make sure that we don't get anything out of that. Wow. Who makes these decisions? I can't have it. I can't have it. This puts even more pressure on the situation. I am going to be glued to that game to see what happens next week against Arsenal. Wow, shocked me. What do you think?
Now, the Tottenham Hotspur women will be in WSL action away at Villa Park against Aston Villa on Sunday, 12 noon kickoff. I caught up with Spurs women boss Martin Ho on Friday ahead of this game. I asked him a number of questions. This is what he had to say previewing the game.
Yes, same as we was last week. Charlie, it probably comes a little bit early for. Charlie will be available next week. She's in full training all next week. She's been in some of the training this week, so she's close. Ella Morris has been in parts of training, so she's getting closer. But apart from that, Micah comes back in after being ineligible for the game. And yet Drew still has a suspension. So apart from that, we're as we were.
Martin, how would you reflect on Sunday's game against Chelsea? Because, of course, as we spoke after the game, there were a lot of positives in that first half. What's been your message to the players this week?
Yeah, a lot of that, because when you're so fixated, Chris, and you're internal, you don't always see maybe the positive aspects of the game, and because you're so configured on winning and getting a result. And when I've spoke to a lot of the staff around me and people away from here, whose opinion I value. They've said about the performance in the first half, and when I look back at it 2 or 3 times, first half I thought we created a lot of chances and they need to go. So we'll be proud of that part of the performance. The ruthless edge needs to be there. But then second half we had moments a game. We had Tinker's chance, Olivia's chance, and they had a few moments themselves when we opened up and tried to go and push the game. But I thought overall, there was positives to take from it. Do we want to be better? Yes. Am I happy with losing the game? No. But I think we've definitely took bigger steps, and we've definitely performed well in that first part of the game, but we want to do that for 90 minutes.
I noticed as well that the Spurs men's player, Terzić, was at the game. How important is it that the men's team support the women's team as well?
Yeah, important, and you want to make sure there's a collaboration and continuity with us supporting them supporting us, and it has to fit in schedule for every player and to make sure that they can do that. But it's wonderful that he was there supporting the team and shows the value and the interest in women's football now. Yeah, and I think if that happens more often, it definitely will happen more often. We're very thankful for anyone at the club, if it's players or staff, that come to watch.
Of course, on Sunday it's Aston Villa away at Villa Park, the iconic stadium. What have you made of them this season? What are you expecting? Because, of course, they've lost their last 4 in all competitions. Yeah,
I think, we played them in the Subway Cup, we played them in the league already, and they've been 2 really close encounters. And we know it's going to be a difficult game when a team comes off the back of defeat, as we've seen with Chelsea. There's going to be a response, and they haven't performed badly in those games, if I'm honest, because they've been really tight. And we know games in this league are tight now. They just come up short against Everton. They were in a really tight game until right at the end with Liverpool. So we know it's going to be a difficult game. They have really strong players. They've got really good goal scoring threats in that attacking third and very good on the break. And they're very resilient when they defend. And we're going to have to be diligent enough to break them down, but we're going to have to be even smarter to make sure that we stop them at the other end.
Evelina Summerlin has just signed a brand new contract at Tottenham. How pleased are you for her, and what does she offer you? Because of course she's just recently played her 100th game in a Spurs shirt. Yeah,
important. She's key in our build-up and how we play with the ball. She's very influential off the ball in terms of being combative when she's up close in those 1v1 duels. And the beauty for Ev is there's still a lot of work we feel she can grow within. She can still be better as a player, and that's probably the beauty of football. When you have such a player that can still be better, it's only going to benefit us for the success moving forward. And to make 100 appearances is very, very impressive, because it shows how important she's been to this team and to this club for a long period. And she'll continue to play a huge part here now moving forward.
Lastly, Martin, can I just get your reaction on Thomas Frank leaving the football club this week? I know you had a good working relationship with him.
Yeah, sad, because you never want to see anyone, a colleague, lose their job. Thomas is a top coach and is an extraordinary person, and someone I admire and have huge respect for, and someone I look up to for the way he does his work. And disappointed for him, but we're in a football business and those decisions have to be made. And I wish him all the best, and I'll keep in contact with him.
Best of luck. Thank you, Martin.
Cheers, Chris. Thank you.
Now, my thoughts on everything in this episode. Let's start by talking about the appointment of Igor Tudor. And of course, it hasn't been officially announced by Tottenham Hotspur yet, but it will be very soon, because from what I understand, he will be starting at Hotspur Way on Monday to take training and prepare for that very, very crucial game. What isn't a crucial game, by the way, at the moment? All 12 of them in the Premier League are crucial games. But of course, it is the North London derby Sunday week, and this is a highly important game for the football club and of course us fans, and we need points on the board and fast to move away from the relegation zone, where Spurs sitting only 5 points above the relegation zone. So Igor Tudor is being brought in to steady the ship and try and get points in the next 12 games. Now, it has been said by many that all Spurs need is around 4 wins to be safe, and keep our Premier League status for next year. Now, this appointment is purely on an interim basis, and the manager knows this and he is happy with it. Now, when you look at his record, he went in at Lazio, he went in at Juventus, and he got the job done. He managed those, in those periods that I mentioned earlier on in the episode, managed both of those clubs respectfully for 9 games. He won 5, he drew 3, and he lost 1. I tell you what, if we could get a similar record like that in the Premier League, that would be fantastic. But when you look and when you hear what Teddy Sheringham had to say, I do see a number of those points, and I do understand the frustration, and I do understand some people being shocked and disappointed, and I do understand people not being excited, but this is not an appointment that we need to get excited about or feel excited about. This is about Premier League survival. This is about coming in, getting the job done, and you could say that Igor Tudor is coming in and advertising himself in the Premier League. He would want to do a good job. Of course he will. He is a very fiery manager. He demands a lot. He demands respect as well. And perhaps that is exactly what we need right now. No more Mr. Nice Guy of Thomas Frank being perhaps too soft with the players. It has been widely reported that he has been very soft with a number of these players. And it is about now some of these players as well taking responsibility, stepping up, being ready for this challenge, being ready for this fight to keep Tottenham Hotspur in the Premier League. I'm hoping that Igor Tudor does a fantastic job and he makes a dramatic impact, but he's got to learn very, very quickly about the Premier League. He's got to learn very fast about the Premier League. It is like a crash course in just a couple of days, and then we face one of the best teams out there right now. I know we don't like to say that, but our rivals Arsenal are one of the best out there at the moment, and it's a huge game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And as so many managers say, particularly Spurs managers in recent times, the crowd need to be up for this game against Arsenal, and we could play a huge part in our performance and, a result in that game. But every single game is going to be very tough. Every single game is going to be tough because of the injury problems that we have. Anyone coming in was going to have that injury problem at Tottenham right now, hence why the club are even looking for a new medical coordinator. How many times have we seen posts like this in recent years, particularly the last couple of years, where Spurs keep replacing medical staff? But yeah, Igor Tudor has got a huge job on his hands. As I say, he's I would have liked, for me personally, I would have liked Spurs to appoint somebody with Premier League experience, but and when you look at what Nottingham Forest have done, and they are just behind us in the Premier League table, they have just appointed someone with Premier League experience as well. But it's not the be-all and end-all, because we have seen many managers come in, Pep Guardiola and Jurgen Klopp. They didn't have Premier League experience when they arrived in the Premier League, did they? Of course not. And they've both gone on to win many titles in the Premier League. Arne Slot is another one as well. So, I'm just hoping that this is going to be the right fit. This is going to be the right appointment just to get us over the line. Now, it's going to be very interesting to see what Spurs do in the summer. I think a lot of people are feeling and thinking that Mauricio Pochettino is going to return in the summer. Like I've said before, and I'll say it again, if you are a potential manager taking or just about to take or even in talks about a permanent role at Tottenham, you will need to be asking 1,001 questions, assurances, what are going to be the promises, what are going to be the signings, what is going to be the plan. The plan is absolutely key to the football club right now going forward, because how many times have we been replacing managers? How many times have we felt like we are going around in circles and making wrong decisions and not doing enough in transfer windows? So it is a major, major thing for us going forward that key decisions are correct, key decisions are made correctly with a real plan in place, and real ambition as well in transfer windows, because they simply haven't been good enough in recent years under so many different managers. Just take what Ange said about the type of player that he wanted to be bringing in, and then we signed 3 teenagers with respect. So it's about Tottenham having that plan for the summer. And by the way, imagine now Spurs from now until the end of the season come out and said our new manager in the summer is going to be, and then of course we all feel a lot better about the situation, rather than we all get to the summer and we're still no further forward about what's actually going to happen with the manager. So whether it would be Mauricio Pochettino or whether it would be somebody else, Roberto De Zerbi, I can't see De Zerbi coming in actually, because I think that De Zerbi and even people like Oliver Glasner as well, I think that they've said so much in the media and they are fiery characters. I just can't see Spurs going down that route. But like I always say this, I am never ever surprised by what happens at Spurs. Sometimes just expect the unexpected. I know a lot of people are expecting Mauricio Pochettino to come back in the summer. I wouldn't be at all surprised with that. But yet I wouldn't be at all surprised with somebody else coming through the door, a name that we've even perhaps never even heard of. Nothing will surprise me, but I just hope that Spurs have a plan in place and show ambition, because we want to be a top club. We do not want to be going around circles again and being in this situation, certainly being 17th in the Premier League last year. So, have a plan in place, please. Now, one good bit of news from David Ornstein on Saturday morning, that Tottenham rebuffed inquiries from rivals for Lucas Bergvall. Can you imagine the Spurs fan base that Spurs let Lucas Bergvall and Brennan Johnson go out the door in January and didn't do much business in terms of incomings to show ambition and help the manager out in the January window? So I'm glad of that. Spurs want to be keeping hold of our top players right now, and Lucas Bergvall is certainly one of those stars for the future. So, yeah, a very interesting couple of days. Of course, Thomas Frank went out the door on Wednesday. Igor Tudor, the deal was done on Friday. The contract was signed on Friday evening, and it is now expected that he will take training on Monday to prepare for the Arsenal game the following Sunday. And of course, I've no doubt over the weekend or first thing Monday morning, an official announcement will be released by Tottenham. It'll be interesting to see what happens with the backroom staff. Does he bring backroom staff with him for these remaining, minimum of 14 games, 12 in the Premier League, 2 in the Champions League? Or does he keep a lot of the backroom staff that Thomas Frank had there? Because from what I understand, there were 8-9 backroom staff that were former Brentford employees that came along with Thomas Frank, during, the summer and right up to recently as well. So will those individuals remain, or will he be bringing in his own backroom staff? That all remains to be seen, and that will all be confirmed in the next couple of days, I've no doubt. Now, if you want to know a little bit more about Igor Tudor, Tottenham's new interim coach, Craig Dearman, channel regular, put this wonderful piece together on Friday, going through him as a manager, going through tactics, going through his record as well. This is what Craig had to say. He'd done a lot of research on this, so I hope you enjoy it.
I'll be taking you all through what we can expect from the new Tottenham Hotspur interim head coach, Igor Tudor. So let's get into it. What can Tottenham fans expect from Igor Tudor, and is he the right man to save Spurs? Who is he? What has he actually achieved? How will he set the team up? What are the positives and what are the risks? And most importantly, can he drag Spurs away from a relegation battle? Let's get into it. So who is Igor Tudor? Igor Tudor is a former Croatian international defender who has quietly built a strong reputation across Europe as an intense, tactically demanding coach. He played for clubs like Juventus and later moved into coaching, managing teams including Hajduk Split, Udinese, Hellas Verona and Olympique Marseille. His biggest managerial success came at Verona and Marseille. At Verona, he took a side tip for relegation and turned them into one of Serie A's most aggressive, difficult teams to play against. At Marseille, he guided them into a third-place Ligue 1 finish and Champions League qualification, restoring intensity and structure. So this is not a rookie. This is someone who has walked into unstable clubs before and imposed order quickly, and that's exactly what Tottenham need right now. So what style of play can Spurs expect? If you're expecting slow build-up and sterile possession football, forget it. Tudor is aggressive, vertical, intense, high-pressing and man-orientated system. He favours a high defensive line, aggressive pressing, man-to-man marking principles, quick vertical transitions. He wants the ball forward fast, not sideways and not backwards. Formation, well, Tudor's preferred system is usually a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-4-1-2. That means 3 centre-backs, wing-backs providing width, 2 central midfielders, 2 attacking midfielders behind a striker. For Tottenham, that could mean the wing-backs are pushed higher, midfielders asked to run relentlessly. A more compact defensive shape, and this could immediately make Spurs harder to play through. Right now, Tottenham have looked fragile. Tudor's system is built around structure and intensity. So what's he achieved? Well, let's be clear, Tudor hasn't won major European trophies, but what he has done is arguably more relevant for Spurs' current situation and what they need. Verona took a relegation-threatened squad, implemented a high-energy identity and finished comfortably mid-table, earning huge praise for tactical clarity. At Marseille, secured Champions League football, improved defensive solidity, re-energised a volatile fan base, and he consistently improved underperforming squads quickly. And that's the key word here, quickly. Tottenham do not need or have a 5-year philosophy right now. They need stability, points and organisation. So the positives Spurs fans can expect, well, immediate structure. Tudor's teams are drilled, compact, organised. Spurs fans can expect less chaotic defending, clear roles, defined tactical responsibilities, increased physical intensity, and the players will run, press and compete. Tudor demands high work rate. Anyone not willing to match it won't play. That could reset the culture immediately. Tactical clarity, no confusion, no vague positional freedom. Players will know when to press, when to drop and where to move. The short-term mental boost. An interim coach can sometimes create a siege mentality. Us against the world. If Tudor taps into that, Spurs could grind out results quickly. But what are the concerns and risks? Now, let's be honest, there are risks in this appointment. The high line vulnerability, his aggressive system can leave space in behind. If Spurs don't execute perfectly, then they could get exposed. Demanding personality, Tudor is intense, blunt, direct. Some players may struggle with that. And he's not a long-term builder. He's never stayed long at a club. This is a short-term stabiliser, remember, rather than a 5-year architect. So why could Tudor be ideal to save Spurs? Well, here's the reality. Tottenham are flirting with danger. This is not about style. This is not about branding, not about the Tottenham way. This is about survival now. So in summary, his tactical profile is often compared to Gian Piero Gasperini and Antonio Conte, although Tudor's football is typically more direct and chaotic. His player style is intense and physically demanding, built around a back three system. In that formation I told you, his sides rely heavily on wing backs for width and attacking play. In possession, Tudor prioritises directness over control. His teams move the ball forward quickly after regaining it, often attacking within a few passes. The back three spread wide in build-up while midfielders support vertical progression. In the final third, inside forwards operate in half spaces behind a central striker who may act as a target man or pressing forward. Tudor has experience taking unstable teams and organising them, toughening them, making them difficult to beat. His system could reduce defensive chaos, create clearer structure, turn open defeats into draws, turn draws into narrow wins, and in a relegation scrap, that's everything. He doesn't need to make Spurs brilliant, he needs to make them resilient. If he can, tighten the defence, instill belief, get wing-backs firing, make Tottenham physically competitive, then Spurs can climb clear of trouble quickly. Sometimes the right manager isn't the glamorous one, sometimes it's the one who brings order to chaos. And Igor Tudor might be exactly that.
Thanks for watching and thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching on YouTube, please do hit that subscribe button, like, share and comment below. And if you're listening to this on an audio platform, please do hit the follow button and leave a review if you can. Have a great weekend. Stay safe and well. Keep smiling and come on you Spurs.